One small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. Those were Neil Armstrong's famous words as he stepped on the moon's surface on July 21, 1969, an event that is considered the culmination of the space race between the USA and the Soviet Union, and therefore a defining moment of the decade. For June, we have the 60s, a pivotal decade in the history of human rights, also known for significant social, cultural, and political shifts. Key events include the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, the rise of counterculture, and the space race. The art of the 60s was a period of significant change and innovation, marked by the rise of new movements that challenged traditional art forms and embraced a wider range of media and subject matter. Notable movements included pop art, minimalism, conceptual art, and op art, all of which reflected the changing social and cultural landscape of the era. The decade was a dynamic era for music, featuring the rise of rock and roll, folk, and psychedelic genres, as well as the influence of Motown Records, the British invasion, and the iconic Woodstock Festival. Music became increasingly political and social, with artists like Bob Dylan using their music to address issues like civil rights and the Vietnam War. Fashion was diverse, influenced by various movements like moth, space age, and hippie styles. Key trends included miniskirts, shift dresses, bell-bottoms, tie-dye, and geometric prints. Men's fashion saw the rise of mod style with slim-fitting suits and casual wear. But let's start with 1960, with the passing of the King of Hollywood, Clark Gable. He earned the title for his enduring appeal and ability to embody the American ideal of masculinity. His fame stemmed from his portrayal of charismatic and rugged romantic heroes, particularly his iconic role as Rhett Butler in Gone with the Wind. If the 60s could be turned into a song, that would be Percy Faith's A Summer Place. Look it up here on YouTube, and if you close your eyes, you might as well be teletransported to that era. Originally composed by Max Steiner, Faith's instrumental arrangement became a massive hit, reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart for a record at the time of 9 consecutive weeks. Known as the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin achieved immense fame for her exceptional talent as a singer, songwriter, and pianist, as well as her contributions to the civil rights movement. She was a cultural icon and advocate for civil rights who used her voice to entertain, uplift, and inspire change. By the 60s, the legendary animation studios Hanna-Barbera was well established and producing more and more cartoons. They introduced new comedic styles and beloved characters to television. The decade saw the birth of Scooby-Doo, Yogi Bear, the Flintstones, and the Jetsons. The studio's famous catalog became synonymous with Saturday morning cartoons and cultural icons. Their studio played a crucial role in the development of limited animation. Another beloved character was Popeye the Sailor, whose American animated series was released between 1960 and 1963 with 220 episodes. But I will tell you more about the birth of the original character in my 1920s video. Moving on to 1961, when Disney's 101 Dalmatians was released in cinemas. I remember having Disney's complete library of classic stories, and that one was my favorite book of them all. Speaking of the space race, Ham the Chimp became the first ape to go to space, climbing to a distance of 157 miles above Earth in the Mercury Redstone 2 launch vehicle. After his successful mission, he was transferred to the National Zoo in 1963, where he lived alone for 17 years before finally being sent to the North Carolina Zoo where he could live with other chimps. He died 22 years after his historic flight into space in 1983 at the estimated age of 26. But a few months after his space adventure, the Soviet Union got ahead in the race when aboard the Vostok 1, Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first human to ever cross into outer space. The mission saw the space capsule orbit the Earth once, and it lasted 108 minutes from launch to landing. Curious fact, the term astronaut is generally used in the West and in English-speaking countries, while cosmonaut is a term used in Russia. A synonym to the 60s, the Beatles. They made their debut appearance at the Cavern Club in Liverpool. Though they had been performing for a while, this was the venue where they gained popularity in the UK and then took over the world. As I made research on this topic, I realized what an impact they had even beyond music, but on almost every aspect of human society, especially on women. I remember visiting their museum in Liverpool and learning about the Beatlemania, a term that became synonymous with the band's meteoric rise to fame and their impact on youth culture. And speaking of good-looking guys, Mattel released the Ken doll, introducing him as Barbie's new boyfriend. But if you look up pictures of that first Ken, he looks more like Barbie's little brother. Oh well. That same year, the World Wildlife Fund opened its first office in Morges, Switzerland, and in July, American novelist Ernest Hemingway passed away. The world of music was enthralled with the Beach Boys' debut single, Surfin'. They gained recognition for their harmonious, upbeat songs about youth culture, and evolved to incorporate more complex arrangements and introspective lyrics. Their music profoundly influenced pop culture, shaping the California sound and introducing the archetype of the surfer. As for movies, two beloved classics stand out: The Parent Trap and Breakfast at Tiffany's, which I didn't paint on these pages because Audrey Hepburn deserves a spread of her own. In 1962, Britain's newspaper, The Sunday Times, was the first to release a color supplement. It was called the Color Section, before becoming the Sunday Times Magazine. This innovation broke the mold of weekend newspaper publishing. And as the Beatles were debuting their first single, Love Me Do, on a hot summer night at London's Marquee Jazz Club, the Rolling Stones played their first ever gig. Active for over 6 decades, they are one of the most popular, influential, and enduring bands of the rock era. In the early 60s, the band pioneered the gritty, rhythmically driven sound that came to define hard rock. The year mourned the passing of Marilyn Monroe, an iconic actress and model, famous for her comedic blonde bombshell roles and her beauty. She is remembered for her captivating performances, as well as for her influence on popular culture and fashion. And speaking of attractive people, Scottish actor Sean Connery debuted as the iconic James Bond in the movie Dr. No, the first of many, many films of the captivating agent. On to 1963, when the legendary 462 Pacific Steam locomotive, the Flying Scotsman, was scheduled for its last run. Named after the London to Edinburgh Express service, it has become a symbol of British engineering and railway history. On the other side of the Atlantic, the news of John F. Kennedy's passing shook the world. A pivotal figure during the Cold War, his innovative foreign policy initiatives and personal charisma had an impact on American society. More importantly, he was a significant figure in the civil rights movement because he took a firm stand on racial equality and proposed legislation that would have a profound impact on the lives of Black Americans. The world of entertainment applauded the first broadcast of Doctor Who, a globally beloved and long-running science fiction series famous for its compelling blend of adventure, mystery, and character-driven storytelling. Speaking of classics, Disney's The Sword in the Stone was released, and though it received mixed reviews from critics, it was a box office success. It was the last of Disney's animated feature that was released during Walt Disney's lifetime. While some found the animation dated, the characters based on the legendary stories of King Arthur of Britain were praised. And one last curious fact, lava lamps were invented in the 1960s by British inventor Edward Craven Walker, who initially called them astro lamps. The concept was inspired by a homemade egg timer he saw in a pub. The lamps gained popularity in the 60s and 70s, becoming a symbol of British pop design. And here is the final flip-through of June's theme that totally rocked my pages. I have been enjoying these decade-inspired themes a lot and learning so much in the process. I hope that you like them too, because there is still half a century to come in the rest of the year. Don't forget to leave a comment, which I am always grateful for. I truly appreciate you being here, and so as usual, thank you so much for watching.